Okay, now we're in Module 4, and we're going to spend this entire module on debris management. And we do that because debris management is one of those large issues in recovery. And to be honest with you, a lot of communities don't do a very good job here. So I want to give you a couple examples. Hurricane Hugo, Category 4, rather large storm, 1989, 400,000 tons of green waste. Landfill had 2.5 years of normal use. The green waste added 2 years, so their landfill only had a half a year left after the storm. It took 17 months to handle all the debris, and it cost $7 million. This is in 1989. Hurricane Dennis, 500-year flood, northeastern North Carolina. 9 million hogs in eastern North Carolina. Extensive ponds with hog excrement. Between 28,000 to several hundred thousand of hogs died. With what to do with floating carcasses? You know, do you bury them? Do you burn them? What do you do with them? Wastewater contamination, huge issues. September 11th, in Oklahoma City bombing. Something to consider at these incidents that you don't have during a hurricane. They're crime scenes. So you have to be careful what you're moving. There were some pretty important things in the World Trade Center building. Gold. There was evidence from other building or other crimes that had been committed. Priceless art treasures. Many things were in the building, so they had to try to preserve them as much as they could. So, what are the common types of disasters? We look, they're really all over the place. We can have hurricanes, high velocity winds, storm surge, tornadoes. That's a picture of Joplin, Missouri, after the tornado went through there. Imagine if you lived in the middle of that mess and everything you owned is gone. Flash floods, high velocity flows, erosions can easily damage a bridge so they can no longer be used. Wash out roads. Riverine flood characteristics, they're very slow to rise and fall, but the inundation leaves unbelievable amount of sediment. You don't even, when you go into your home, you need a shovel. Earthquakes, all types of major damages, buildings collapsing. Many of our buildings in the United States are not designed for earthquakes. Wildfires, I think we've seen a lot of these in the past years, and this has been basically due to a change in the way that the National Park Service handles their fires, and they're extinguishing fires or not extinguishing fires. How about a huge accumulation of ice and snow? You get heavy rain. That's in the ground is freezing. It's wet. Warm up above us. The rain comes down, hits power lines, and next thing you know, we have towers coming down. We have trees coming down. Tremendous damage from ice storms. And of course, there's a tsunami. Forceful, fast-moving, wide area of coverage, and we all watched it live, I'm sure, during the Japan Fukushima tsunami. I think we learned a lot there, seeing cars and trucks and houses being washed away. Volcanoes, we see a couple of new active volcanoes in recent times. We're probably going to see more of them. They could be very explosive. The molten lava will burn anything in its path. And ash is all over the place. So much so that, if you remember, they had to divert flights or cancel flights because they didn't want to get that ash in the motors, in the jet engines. Acts of terrorism, very random. They're unpredictable. They could produce conventional and unconventional debris. And again, remember, if it's an act of terrorism, that's a crime scene. Sandstorms, very, very common in some parts of the country. We're lucky we don't see these here. Sandstorm comes in, covers the whole center of a city, and for days you may not be able to see anything. Think about your fire apparatus driving through a sandstorm. How many air filters do they have? What type of protection are they ready for? When we look at disasters, the next logical thing, since we're talking about debris, is what type of debris do they bring? And so let's look. Vegetation. We could take that pile of vegetation and make it 65% smaller by running it through a grinder and breaking it up into smaller pieces. But have you ever thought about where you'd have a pile of debris or vegetation like that in your community? How about the local baseball park? Or maybe a park down by the beach, or the Walmart parking lot. That's not as easy to do as you think. You just can't come in and commandeer a lot and say, I'm going to make this my vegetation storage area. How about mud? Where do you even begin here? Here you have someone that's pumping out their basement. The whole house, their material is outside all over the place. Everything is covered in mud. It's a disaster, really, for the individuals to try to deal with that. We have a storm. We become, hey, we're going to sandbag our house. We're going to protect our house so it doesn't flood. Flood water goes down. Now we're left with a gazillion sandbags surrounding our neighborhood. What do you do with all those sandbags after the storm? They could be part of the debris as well. Construction and demolition. This is a picture of a flood from Katrina, and everything you could imagine is all in that, mixed in there. There's propane tanks from gas grills. There's refrigerators. There's washers, dryers, television sets, stereo sets. Anything that you could imagine is stored in there. It's really quite amazing what you'll find in a pile like this. Some people actually in Galveston, Texas, after the hurricane in 1906, they didn't name them at that point. It was so devastating that people actually started digging through the debris and pulling out 2x4s and anything that they could use, and they rebuilt their homes from the debris that was left in a huge pile. Construction and demolition, burnt structures. There's basically nothing there that could be used. This could be New York City after Sandy went through and left over 100 homes burnt. That's about what you're going to see afterwards. Personal property. Look at the cars all over the place. In Katrina, in one area, there was 30,000 vehicles that were stored in one lot, just automobiles. Think about your own home. How many televisions do you have? I think I said this as the class started. How many televisions do you have? Look at all your neighbors' homes. Figure maybe 100,000 homes destroyed, 200,000 non-livable. So 300 homes with 4 to 5 televisions. What are you going to do with all those televisions? How do you recycle them? Where do you send them? Who wants them? So personal property and mobile homes, it's all over the place. Tornado goes through, mobile homes are ripped apart, and you really begin with, where do you start? What parts can you save? What parts can you not save? Your home personal property, put it on the curb. And when we get to, really into debris, we're going to say that we want to separate that debris at the site. So we want that homeowner to put all of the bulky waste in one place. We want them to put all the electronics in another. We want them to put all the wood and construction debris, furniture. We want that to go in another pile. We don't want it to look like this. Because if you don't separate it at the source, you're never going to separate it when you get to a regional center. Household waste, this is just a small picture of what was picked up after Katrina in one area. Look at how many propane tanks are there floating around. In the South, people use propane for heating. They have small furnaces, so that's why you see a large number of 50 and 100-pound tanks, because that's what they use to heat their homes. In metal, can we recycle the metal that's there? That's debris. We go out into debris, pick it up, recycle it, separate it into metallic and non-metallic, and then we try to get rid of it. White goods. I'll just give you a little story. I was fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough, to go to New Orleans about 3 months after Hurricane Katrina had struck the city. There was an area, it was about 3 city blocks long and about a city block wide, that had nothing but white goods. Washers, dryers, freezers, refrigerators, dishwashers, all the things that we have in our home. They were piled up in this area that was about, I think, 3 city blocks long and a city block wide. They were picking the stuff up with a crane and putting it on the pile. The pile was over 50 feet high, and it was there for quite a while. All the Freon had to come out of the refrigerators. all that had to be recycled and disposed of, and then hopefully recycled so that a way that we could reuse it again. This is the worst way to have to start debris management. Mixed debris is not what we want. We want the homeowner, when they put it on the curb, we want them to separate it. How do we do that? We've got to educate the homeowners. And if you're not prepared to do it, this is what the pile is going to look like in the front of every home. Who's going to pick through that? Who's going to pick out the metal and give it to the metal collector? Who's going to pick out the wood, give it to the wood collector? Who's going to pick out the other products that are there? Huge problem when the homeowners are not educated and they pile it in front of their home. Vessels and boats can also be washed ashore. You'll notice that these are getting ready to be pushed in the water. They're using big rubber blow-up rollers to get the boat up in the air and moved. Vehicles, all over the place. They float, they move around, they get into a pile, they all have oil in the motors, they have gasoline, they have oil in the transmission, and so you have a tremendous hazardous material incident with vehicles. Here's a picture of animal carcasses. How do you handle something like this? Do you burn them? Do you bury them? What do you do with them? It's a major problem. It has to be handled because that water is soon going to be infected, and no one's going to be able to use that water for anything. So critical debris issues that we want to talk about: types of potential disaster you may have in your community, estimated the quantities and types of debris, and there is ways of doing that. How will it be collected, stored, reduced, and disposed of? All of this needs to be thought ahead of time. And having a debris management plan and contracts in place to handle the debris is extremely critical. Identification of responsible agencies, who's going to pick up what, capabilities of in-house resources, identification of the work to be contracted out, just having metal contractors pick it up and bring it to a recycling center, identification of applicable environmental and historic laws. Some of our buildings are very historic, or bridges, we don't want to ruin them. And then the requirements of FEMA funding. As we'll see in this unit, FEMA has some pretty strict requirements. If you're the mayor, you can't hire your brother Bubba to come in with his dump truck and pick up and bring debris to the town dump to get rid of it. Because they want to know, FEMA's going to want inspectors there to look at that load and say, yep, the truck is full. Nope, it's only got a half a load. We're not paying you for a full load if the truck is only half filled. So pressures to get it handled. The residents that live there, they pile the debris on the street. They want it gone tomorrow morning. Somehow, magically at night, you're supposed to show up, clean it, and get rid of it. And they want to try to make their property go back to normal as soon as possible. So be prepared. You're going to get tremendous pressure to get it out of there. Responders to save lives need debris. We need to clear the debris so we can get in there. Here in the Northeast, it's not that difficult. We could put the snow plows on our trucks and actually plow the debris off the street. You go down south to Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, they don't have snow plows. So for them to clear their street, it's quite a big deal. So, you want to get those people home, you want to get the businesses back on track, and you want to make the place look a little better. And by cleaning it up, you kind of cut down the chances for debris, no standing water, cut down on mosquitoes. What to expect with hurricanes. 30% of the piles will contain clean woody debris. 70% will be construction and demolition. That'll include 42% burnable items, 5% soil, 15% metal, and 38% landfill material. This is based on experience. So you could actually use this in doing some estimate of how much debris would be developed in your community after a hurricane. And holistic, environmentally friendly debris reduction strategies. These are pictures of 9/11. Those pictures that you see, the picture on the right, with all of that paper was actually saved, and they tried to get it back to the business that actually that it came from. If there was a way of determining where it came from, they got it back to them. So we recycled vehicles, we recycle paper, we tried to do as much as we could and reduce reusing and recycling the materials. And sometimes you can actually resell it. Wood, trees, you can grind up and sell it as mulch. So you need to have a debris management plan. Everyone needs to do this. I know that many states now have one. They were mandated by FEMA to do this. So you need to follow the procedures. It's very simple to develop the plan. It takes a lot of time. Identify the problem. Develop a team. Develop a plan and implement. Hire the contractors ahead of time. If I'm the mayor and my brother has a dump truck and a backhoe, if I have him on contract ahead of time, FEMA's going to honor that contract. But if I hire him after the storm because I need him, he's going to want to raise the price even though he's my brother, and FEMA's not going to honor that because the price is going to be what they call price gouging. Conduct training, conduct exercises, review and revise the debris management plan to make sure that it's going to work. What's the human dimension? Site safety. We need to make sure the workers are going to be safe. In New Orleans, there were big problems where they were hiring out a company. That company subcontracted to another company, and that company subcontracted to another company that hired day workers to clean up the debris. Guess what? Their pay was very low compared to what FEMA was paying. Everybody else made money in the trail except for the actual workers. They were exposed to all types of chemicals. They were not trained properly. They did not have proper supervision. There was no medical surveillance of these people, and there was no decontamination procedures. What happened? A lot of them got sick. And now they're looking for to get paid for that, and there's no way of doing it. How we could do some debris estimation, just really quickly. Mobile home, about 290 cubic yards of debris. A flooded home with personal equipment, without a basement, 25 to 30 cubic yards of debris. With a basement, you can assume to have 45 to 50 cubic yards of debris. I guess they didn't look at my basement. I think it'd be a little bit higher. Homes, if you want to actually calculate the cubic yards, it's the length times the width times the height of the home divided by 27 times 0.33, and that'll give you the cubic yards of debris from a particular home. Trees, there's 15 trees at 8 foot, would equal about 40 cubic yards of debris. And again, that's after they were ground up. Woody vegetation and construction and debris material tap into local recycling, environmental benefits, economic benefits, sell the most, hire locals, give it away, do what you can to get rid of the stuff and so it doesn't fill up your landfill. Get creative. Landfills are filling. Recycle the clean woody material, mulch it, compost it, sell it, make it into firewood. Hurricane Ikinu in the Kauai used to fire up boilers on their sugar plantations. Reuse the soil, mud, sand, and dirt. Missouri floods in '93, they screen, they shake, they check for toxicity, then they use the topsoil in agricultural production. Incineration, chipping and grinding reduces woody debris from about 4 to 1 or 75%. Incineration reduces the volume up to 90 to 95%. But will your local environmental protection agency allow you to burn it? It's limited to woody vegetation, clean debris, and the fire has to be controlled carefully. Are your firefighters up to that task? More creative uses of debris, the better ways that you can find to use your debris, and not clutter up your landfills is basically the way to go. So historic elements, set them aside, reuse them. Shingles, grind them up and use as resurfacing asphalt roads. Metals from mobile homes, porches, vehicles, sort into electromagnetics, sell to scrap dealers. All these different things could be done with the debris. And more creative. I just want to give you, these are really cool pictures. The picture on the bottom is a picture of a baseball field with the you can see the parking lot in the back with the light stanchions, and right in front of us is the baseball field. Now the picture above is the exact same field as it's used for a debris, like a regional transitional storage point where they take the debris, they process it, they grind it up, they recycle the metal, whatever they're going to do, and they get rid of it. If you told someone ahead of time that you were going to use that baseball field as a debris storage, they would think you're crazy. But what FEMA does is, you pick the site, you use the site, when you're all done, it's put back into the same shape it was before the storm. So white goods, appliances, sell to scrap dealers. Building materials, sell or give away. Concrete and road materials, reuse them if at all possible. Contracts, We want to pay time and materials rapid, and by the roadside unit price has to be adjustable. We want to look at lump sum, a fixed amount for doing a particular job. Who pays? FEMA pays 75%. It must be a presidential declaration or you're not going to get paid by FEMA. Must be disaster specific, reasonable, competitive bid, load monitoring, and fraud monitoring. And believe me, FEMA is a hound when it comes to money. If they paid something out in 2011 and 2018, there may be someone knocking on your door saying, you know, in 2011, you were not truthful with us. You did not give us the right information, and we're making the city pay back the money because we don't think what they did. Temporary site issues, training workers, safety procedures, environmental impact. You don't want to store the stuff where you're going to hurt the environment for a long period of time. Convenient. You want the vehicles to get in and out very easily. You want the stuff to be away from residential areas. Let's say it catches on fire, which does quite regularly. These things happen from moving things together. You don't want the neighbors or the people that are able to move back home smelling this stuff, so you want to keep them away from residential areas. And remedial action for contamination. You can build a permanent landfill to cover it. And finally, public education campaigns is extremely important. You need to have all this stuff ready ahead of time. We say websites, we say those things, but I'm going to tell you, after a disaster, probably the best thing you could do is have a handout that your police officers, firefighters deliver to the homeowners, a piece of paper with directions. They're not going to have access to the internet. They may not have access to television, but if you deliver them a paper and tell them how you want to stack the debris in the front of their home, it'll make a difference. So I know I went really quickly. I wanted to just give you some overview. You're going to see more of this in this unit, but I wanted to cover it really quickly, what debris management is all about.